Black people were the primary creators, organizers, and beneficiaries of the numbers games, a daily illegal lottery in the United States, particularly in the early 20th century. Key black entrepreneurs like Casper Halston and Stephanie Sinclair created a major economic engine in Harlem, while others like Johnson, can't say his name, operated similar systems in Detroit. So, what I want to do today, I want to pay tribute to the creation of lottery in the United States, which seemingly should be considered black people's invention. And I want to pay tribute by giving it up to the Lady Stephanie St. Sinclair.
An empire worth millions. But first, she has to survive. Harlem in the 1920s isn't the cultural renaissance you read about in textbooks. Not yet. It's a neighborhood of strivers and hustlers, of people who came north looking for freedom and found poverty instead. The streets are controlled by corrupt cops who shake down every business owner they can find. Protection money, bribe money, just because money. Stephanie watches all of this with calculating eyes. She works odd jobs at first: domestic work, seamstress work, the kind of labor that breaks your back and barely pays rent. But she's learning. She's watching the flow of money in the neighborhood. She sees men running the numbers game, an illegal lottery where people bet pennies on three-digit numbers. It's the poor man's stock market, and everyone plays. The game is simple. You pick a number. If it hits, you win. The odds are terrible, but the dream is cheap. For people who have nothing, a penny bet is hope you can afford. Stephanie sees something else. She sees that the men running these operations are sloppy. They're skimming too much. They're paying out unfairly. They're losing trust. And in an illegal business, trust is the only currency that matters. She decides to run her own operation. By 1923, Stephanie St. Clair isn't just running numbers, she's revolutionizing the game. Where other operators cheat their customers, she pays out fairly. Where others intimidate, she builds loyalty. Where others are barely literate, she keeps meticulous records in French so the cops can't read them even if they raid her. She's elegant. She dresses in expensive clothes. She speaks 3 languages. She carries herself like royalty, and soon everyone in Harlem is calling her Queenie. Her operation grows fast. She hires runners, mostly women, to collect bets throughout the neighborhood. She pays them well. She protects them from harassment. In return, they're fiercely loyal. Her network spreads through beauty salons, barbershops, churches, and speakeasies. Everywhere Black people gather, Queenie's numbers are there. The money flows in, thousands of dollars a week, then tens of thousands. She invests in real estate, she funds community organizations, she pays bail for people arrested unjustly. She becomes more than a crime boss, she becomes a folk hero. But she makes enemies too. The police in Harlem are almost entirely white, and they're corrupt to the bone. They expect their cut from every illegal operation. Stephanie refuses to pay. When they threaten her, she threatens them back. When they arrest her, she hires the best lawyers and beats the charges. When they try to intimidate her, she publishes their names in Black newspapers and accuses them of extortion. She's making them look weak, and in 1920s New York, that's dangerous. But the cops aren't her biggest problem, not even close. Dutch Schultz is not a man you say no to. Born Arthur Flegenheimer in the Bronx, he's rebuilt himself as one of the most violent gangsters in New York. He controls beer distribution during Prohibition, he controls unions, he controls politicians, and now, in 1931, he's decided he wants Harlem. Specifically, he wants the numbers game. He's watched Stephanie St. Clair and other Black operators make millions, and he wants that money for himself. So he makes them an offer: work for him, give him a cut, or get hurt. Most operators fold immediately. They've heard the stories. They know what happens to people who cross Dutch-Schultz. But Stephanie St. Clair doesn't fold. She tells him no. Not just no, she declares war. She takes out ads in black newspapers warning her community about the white gangsters trying to steal their businesses. She organizes other operators to resist. She arms her runners. She turns her operation into a resistance movement. Dutch-Schultz cannot believe it. A woman, a black woman, defying him. He sends men to intimidate her. They fail. He sends men to beat her runners. She beats them back. He tries to undercut her prices and steal her customers. She outmaneuvers him at every turn. For 2 years, Stephanie St. Clair holds off the most dangerous mobster in New York through nothing but intelligence, courage, and strategic brilliance. But she can't hold him off forever.
The problem isn't Dutch-Schultz alone. The problem is that he has something Stephanie doesn't. He has corrupt politicians in his pocket. He has judges on his payroll. He has the police force working for him, not against him. When he can't beat her through intimidation, he beats her through the system. In 1935, Stephanie is arrested on trumped-up charges. The evidence is fabricated, the witnesses are lying. Everyone knows it, but the judge is paid off and she's sentenced to 8 months in prison. While she's locked up, Dutch-Schultz tears apart her operation. He takes over her runners. He absorbs her territory. He crushes the resistance she'd built. By the time she gets out, her empire is gone. Most people would give up. Most people would take what money they had left and disappear. Most people would accept defeat. Stephanie St. Clair is not most people. October 23, 1935, Dutch-Schultz is sitting in the Palace Chop House in Newark, New Jersey. He's there with 3 of his men discussing business over dinner. He doesn't know that Murder Incorporated, the enforcement arm of the Italian mob, has decided he's too violent, too unpredictable, too much of a liability. They've sent men to kill him. 2 hitmen walk into the restaurant. They open fire. Dutch-Schultz is shot in the bathroom. He stumbles out, bleeding. He dies in the hospital the next day, delirious and rambling. The news reaches Stephanie in Harlem. She picks up a pen and writes a telegram to the Newark police. The message is simple, brutal, and legendary. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. She signs it and has it delivered. She doesn't just celebrate his death, she uses it. With Dutch-Schultz gone, the Italian mob takes full control of Harlem's numbers game, but they're not warriors like he was. They're businessmen. They can be negotiated with. They can be manipulated. And Stephanie, though her empire is smaller now, survives. She never regains the power she once had. The mob is too entrenched, but she never stops fighting either. Stephanie St. Clair spends her later years doing what she always did, speaking truth to power. She testifies against corrupt police officers, naming names and providing evidence. She writes letters to newspapers exposing injustice. She funds civil rights causes. She remains defiant until the end. She eventually marries Bumpy Johnson, another legendary figure in Harlem's underworld, though their relationship is complicated and turbulent. But even in partnership, she never stops being Queenie. She never bows. She never breaks. When she dies in 1969, most of America doesn't notice. There are no front-page obituaries, no state funerals, no official recognition. But in Harlem, people remember. They remember the woman who stood up to the mob. They remember the woman who refused to be intimidated. They remember the woman who ran her own empire in a world that said she had no right to exist. Here's what they don't teach you in school. They don't teach you that before the Civil Rights Movement, before Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr., there were people like Stephanie St. Clair, people who fought for respect in their own way, people who refused to accept the world as it was and demanded to be treated as equals, even in the criminal underworld. Was she a criminal? Yes. Did she run an illegal gambling operation that exploited poor people's desperation?
Absolutely. But she also fought police corruption when no one else would. She protected her community when the law wouldn't. She stood up to the most powerful gangsters in America and made them bleed. She was complex, she was contradictory, she was human, and she was extraordinary. Think about the courage it takes to send that telegram, "Come and get me if you dare." Think about standing in Harlem in 1932, knowing that the most violent man in New York wants you dead, and choosing defiance anyway. Think about being a black woman in an era when you had no legal rights, no political power, no protection, and still building an empire. Stephanie St. Clair didn't wait for permission. She didn't wait for the world to be fair. She saw an opportunity and she took it. She saw injustice and she fought it. She saw powerful men trying to crush her and she stared them down. History remembers the mobsters. It remembers Lucky Luciano and Al Capone and Dutch Schultz. It forgets the woman who beat them. But maybe it's time we remembered. Maybe it's time we told her story. Maybe it's time we recognize that courage doesn't always look the way we expect it to.
All right, that's out of respect for Black History Month. While one side always seeming like it wants you to have an impoverished mindset, and the other side always wants to belittle your contributions to this country. I wanted to bring to you today a Black Queen, Saint Stephanie St. Clair, who seemingly you can contribute to the lottery system that we see today in this country. So, what was the economic impact? The numbers game serves as one of the few economic opportunities for Black people in a segregated society, employing thousands of runners and collectors and funding Black businesses, newspapers, and community organizations. So, with that said, Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live show. I wanted today to give it up to the sisters and realize, you know what I'm saying, I always get a slogan of what, I mean, it's a good day to be a soldier. And it's a great way to show you and give a demonstration to you to think about what type of soldier you want to be.